Between March 18th and April 27th of 2020, while an entire country remained under lockdown because of the COVID-19 pandemic, a serial killer moved through the very center of Barcelona, leaving a trail of death among the already vulnerable homeless. Today we will learn about a criminal case that went largely unnoticed in Spain, right in the middle of the health crisis, and affected a group of people often invisible to society. Welcome to Iberian Shadows. If you are interested in real crime cases, unexplained phenomena, legends, and other mystery topics, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Barcelona on March 18, 2020. 4 days earlier, the Spanish government had declared a state of alarm due to a health crisis, requiring people to stay confined at home throughout the country. The streets were completely deserted except for essential workers, law enforcement officers, and homeless people who took shelter in doorways and other corners of the city. That day, the tense calm was broken by the gruesome discovery of a body in the middle of the street. It was Laureano Almeida da Mora, a 60-year-old man. He was sleeping on the street when he was attacked by his killer. He suffered a severe wound to the neck from a kitchen knife. The weapon was found near the body and died from blood loss within minutes. The person who found him bleeding called emergency services at 11 p.m., but they could only confirm his death. With no fingerprints, camera footage, or witnesses, the Mossos, Catalan police, were left with no list to catch the culprit. April 16, 2020. Just a few streets from where Laureano was murdered, another victim was found violently killed. The victim, Imata Luz, was a 22-year-old Moroccan who was sleeping on the street around 2 p.m. when he was killed in broad daylight. His killer fractured his skull with a steel bar. The victim had a reputation for being a troublemaker in the area and in social soup kitchens. This could have been considered a case of revenge, perhaps from someone he had a conflict with, but for Juan Carlos Granja, head of the Criminal Investigation Division in Barcelona, his instinct told him it could be the same killer who had murdered Laureano. If his suspicion was true, the worst possible scenario was unfolding: a serial killer, and they had to work quickly to prevent him from striking again. Hours later, footage of the Moroccan victim's murder arrived at the police station. A bar security camera had captured the crime. The killer was violently striking a bundle lying on the ground. It was the victim, sleeping wrapped in warm clothing. The killer beat the victim's head with incredible rage and fury. One of the investigators, upon seeing this, commented that it seemed as if the killer was angry at the world. That comment would give the investigation its name, Operation Angry. He stole nothing. He was simply unleashing with murderous rage. Assuming they were dealing with a serial killer, the Criminal Investigation Division deployed an operation. They searched for any trace of biological evidence without success and looked for security camera footage in the area. They studied lists of prisoners who were on leave or had been released around that time. Finally, they found footage from the Barcelona metro where they saw their target sneaking through the turnstiles and moving erratically and nervously. His appearance was unmistakable due to its oddness. Shorts worn over long pants, a Barça cap with the visor turned backward, sunglasses, fingerless gloves, a backpack, and a plastic bottle hanging from it. April 18th, 2020, 4 o'clock in the morning. The killer struck again. The new victim was Ramon Barberanginer, a 67-year-old man who was sleeping under cardboard near the Tivoli Theater when he was beaten. Security cameras captured the same killer, who acted in the same furious manner, striking the victim with a 1-meter-long wooden stick and leaving it near the body. A homeless sleeping on the opposite sidewalk said that a few days earlier he had been hit by someone on his legs. Since he was covered by blankets and cardboard, the attacker had simply been hitting a bundle on the ground without checking if it was the head or the feet. Starting on April 19th, around 50 plainclothes officers began patrolling at night. They suspected that the nerve center was Urquinaona Square, where the killer could move easily and find a greater number of potential victims, homeless people sleeping outdoors. The Mossos advise homeless people in shelters and soup kitchens not to sleep alone and to stay together to avoid becoming easy targets for the predator on the loose. April 27th, 2020, around 11 p.m. A Russian couple returning home saw a man along the route whose behavior aroused suspicion. His case was vacant and he was holding a large bar. The witnesses quickened their pace and rushed into their building. Once at home, they saw from their balcony that the same sidewalk where a homeless person had been sleeping moments before was now stained with blood from a new attack. After the couple's alert, the Mossos arrived at the crime scene. The victim was Jean-Pierre Billon, a 32-year-old man from France. He was the same homeless who, days earlier, had already suffered a previous attack when he was struck on the legs while sleeping. The plainclothes teams patrolling the streets had located the suspect and were following him from a distance to find his hideout and gather evidence to charge him with the murders. After following him for some time, observing his erratic movements, they decided to arrest him immediately, fearing they might lose sight of him. The arrested man was Tiago Laje Fernandez, born in the Brazilian city of Belo Horizonte on January 25, 1985. He had entered Portugal through Lisbon Airport, where his sister lived, and from there had accumulated various offenses and crimes, including theft and vandalism. Regarding his criminal record in Brazil, he had already shown signs of being a violent individual. In 2016, he had spent several months in a psychiatric facility, which could explain the sudden outbursts of rage he displayed toward random people. Since January 2020, he had been living in an old caravan in a neighborhood of Barcelona. Despite all the difficulties investigators faced due to the lack of the witnesses during the lockdown, this very factor helped them track the suspect through security cameras in both the metro and nearby businesses. In 2023, Tiago was sentenced to 63 years in prison for the murder of 3 people, Imata Luz, Juan Ramón Barberán, and Jean-Pierre Elbillon. 21 years of each victim, 20 years for each murder, plus 1 year for the crime against the moral integrity of each victim. The homicide unit of the Mossos was able to prove Tiago Lajes Fernandez's guilt in the last 3 murders beyond a doubt. Although they worked to prove his responsibility for the death of Laureano Almeida, they could not demonstrate it. Investigators suspect these were not his first victims, given his aggressive behavior and psychiatric history. Do you think these were his only victims, or had he acted before? Leave your thoughts in the comments and we'll see you in upcoming videos with more cases. See you next time.